Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trillium Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I feel inclined to just show you some of the variations that you can find on the classic Rider-Waite Smith deck. Before I get too far, into showing off cards, I just want to ask you to do me a favor, and please do give the video a thumbs up and subscribe because it truly does help the channel. I also have another more personal favor to ask of you. This deck is traditionally known as the Rider-Waite deck. So Rider is the gentleman or the company that produced or printed the deck. Waite is the name of the gentleman who kind of directed the deck. But Pamela Coleman Smith is the female artist who actually created these illustrations. These paintings that have become so timeless and so easily referenced and so incredibly prevalent in the tarot world. So if you are just starting out in the tarot, on your tarot journey, please start off right away training yourself calling this the Rider-Waite Smith deck. She was a woman in the man's world. I believe this deck was initially produced in 1909, so women didn't matter as much, or whatever their philosophy was. So I don't think that she gets enough credit for the timeless illustrations that she created for these cards. So that's just a personal thing. Just as a baseline, I am starting us out with the Centennial edition of the Rider-Waite Smith deck. It's a Pamela Coleman Smith Centennial edition. Now, these are the cards that are used most frequently by Autumn on Black and Orange Tarot and Astrology. She does daily readings at noon. So you frequently see this deck being used, although she does use others throughout, depending on the day. But these are the regular tarot size. They're, if I remember the dimensions correctly, they're 4.5 inches or 4.75 inches tall and like just under 3 inches wide or close to 3 inches wide. So you can get a miniature version of this deck. This is not the mini, this is the pocket edition. So if I set this one directly on the full-size tarot deck, I did specifically pull out the Fool, the Wheel of Fortune, the Tower, and the Star, so that as we go through all of these varieties, you can see precisely how they compare. So this is the pocket edition compared to the full-size tarot deck. However, this is the pocket edition of that very same Centennial Tarot. So this version that I'm about to show you, I only have the mini version of this deck. I haven't gotten the full grown-up adult version of this, but this is the deck that Jenn Lynn uses when she does her readings, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, but oops, there we go. It's Mercury retrograde as I'm recording this, and Mercury has been retrograding all over the place. So I wanted to put this miniature edition of the Radiant Wise Tarot on top of the regular tarot deck size and on top of the pocket edition size, so you can see the differences in sizes. Now you can see the imagery is the same. The depth of the color on the Radiant Wise Tarot is a little bit different. But for the most part, these are kind of the more traditional versions of the decks. And the varieties I'm going to show you, some of them have different cardstock. Some of them have different focuses of colors. Some of them are much more detailed and some of them are much more plain. So I'm just going to start flying through these. You can get cards that are holographic. And it's not translating very well with this light that I have here, but you can get, like, these are pocket edition size that are holographic in nature. So they have kind of that rainbow iridescent tint to them. This deck is full size, so it's the same size as the Centennial edition, but the primary color in the background is black. And let me get some of these other ones out of the way. So if I specifically compare the original, the Centennial edition, it's easy to see what the difference is with the black background. This version of the deck does have, in some of the cards, it almost has like streaks going through the black or through whatever the color might be. I happen to find it charming because it makes it appear like it's an older version of the art, but I know that some people say, no, it looks like it was just a really crappy coloring job, and I don't want anything to do that. So it's entirely up to you. These specific cards are thicker as well and have more of a plasticky coating, so they do slide a lot more than the traditional deck does. And speaking of thicker cards, this is another version of these exact same 4 major arcana cards. You can see the overall color on these decks is, I'm struggling to find the right word. Dark is not the right word. I don't know. It's not as bright as the original. There, it's more muted. I guess it does have a darker tone to it. And some people like that as well because again, it's just an indicator that the cards might be older than they actually are. Granted, these are just different variations of the current version of the cards, but hey, I wanted to show that in case you like that. Now, this deck is one that I recently acquired, and this is the same imagery in the center, but I thought this one was kind of cool because look at the edges. They look like the edges of the cards have flames on them. So you can get whatever, sometimes you can get just variations on just the edging. And this is also a thicker card. It's got a plastic coating, so these will be really slippery to shuffle and deal with. But I just found that deck to be pretty cool with the kind of flames coming around the edges. Now, this deck is kind of interesting. The images on the card are very plain. The images are simply the ink. It's not even truly black and white because of the colors on the background of the card. And I found that the best way to get a color on these cards for reviews like this is to use one of those ring lights. However, this bluish color tone that I have it on is not bringing out correctly the colors on these cards. This is some kind of marble color where the top of the card is kind of a bluish purple with marble. You know how marble has veins and stuff in the background. So the top half of the card is kind of that bluish marble, and then the bottom of the card is pinkish marble. So it gradually melds, the color gradually melds as you go through the cards. It's really pretty, but I wish it translated better to this video. Now, this specific variation of the deck is absolutely beautiful. Granted, again, there is not a whole lot of color in the images because the whole concept of the deck is that it's more in bronze tones, but it's really flashy and really sparkly. Here's the back of it if you want to see the back. I think the back of these are absolutely gorgeous. And I think if I remember right, I actually bought these cards because the back of the card was so pretty. But one knock on these cards, on this specific deck, these are not as thick as some of the other ones that I showed you, but these are hella slippery. I cannot even shuffle them without having them fly all over, and I have to pick them up off the floor. So keep that in mind if you purchase this deck. They are very beautiful, and I definitely encourage it. You can see some of the shininess on the back of this full card. So it's pretty. Now, this deck was showed to me by someone in my tarot group after our tarot class. And this one, I believe, came from Australia. The front of the cards are very basic. It's just a red background. And again, the images are very simple. There's not coloration in there. The images are just in gold. But look at how beautiful the backs of these cards are. They just feel luxurious. So that is a version of the cards. And it looks like I have 2 more to go through. We'll start off with this one is the Lustrous Lenormand, or Lustrous Tarot, I'm sorry. This is the one, Johnny, Tarot's Apprentice, does have a code. If you order this deck directly from the DeBry website, you get 20% off your order. So if you decide to go that route, make sure that you use Johnny's code. It's the basic concept behind the cards are very similar, but you can see that on this lustrous tarot, the images have been cleaned up with computer. So there is some aspect of graphic design included in this one. Some people greatly prefer that, and some people don't. So let's look at another good example. I want to look at, I'm pulling up my baseline, my Centennial Tarot to compare to the lustrous. So again, the basic imagery is really the same, except this is the one on the right is more, I guess, cleaned up to an extent. Now the Wheel of Fortune. So by now you have an idea. If you like the cleaner lines of this, from what I can tell, all of the basic imagery remains the same. This lustrous tarot is simply, I guess, brought into a newer generation, for lack of a better term, and does take advantage of current technology. Now, for this last deck, I want to show you, these cards have stars on the back, so that's a good indicator that this is the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot. So the one on the left here is the Centennial Edition, and the one on the right here is the Radiant Rider-Waite. So you can see that there's a difference in the coloration. And again, the deck on the right has been cleaned up a bit, just to clarify some of the images, get rid of some of the extraneous things that were included in the pen and ink and paint in the original drawings of this specific card. There we go. So even in the Fool, the lines are cleaner, but everything else remains the same. The dog is there. The white rose is there. The clothes are the same. The rays of the sun on the Radiant Rider-Waite are actually white instead of being these black lines that were on the original piece of artwork. So that brings me to the end of everything that I wanted to share during this video. Like I said, the whole goal for this was just to show some of the differences between Rider-Waite, because there are so many variations out there. Just pick one that you like and stick with it, at least to start. And then as you get more of a handle on the cards themselves and the meanings and get into practicing, then you can start to play around with some of the other types of cards that are not, this traditional imagery. But out of all of these right now, my favorite decks of cards change daily. Out of the ones that I showed you today, right now my favorite is this one that has the burnt imagery around the outside of it. So ask me again in 5 minutes and it'll be different. I am about to be laid up for several weeks, so I plan to do a blog post about this video, so stay tuned for that. Please do give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to help the channel. Thank you so much for watching.